Well, we'll keep our eye on it, obviously. The managerial merry-go-round always goes on. Speaking of which, we're also seeing a lot of talk of if Pep Guardiola is to leave Manchester City, Roberto De Zerbi being the man who would come in and be the perfect fit at Manchester City if Pep were to go. Do you think he actually would be the best fit?
I thought we started this rumor a couple of weeks ago. That's the only place for
Obviously,
De Zerbi
start all
to
the
go.
rumours in the football world, like
Yes,
the
I
PL
thought
Express.
I thought again this was more of a fact. Look, I mean, it's all about timing. If Pep Guardiola decided to leave at the end of next season, done and dusted. There really isn't anybody else. Not just because they like each other, but and respect each other and play similar football. But I think, like Pep, De Zerbi is the only one that, in my mind, is as innovative as Pep, if you know what I mean. He's not afraid to take risks, and he's not afraid to try different things and players, challenging players to put them in difficult situations, in new positions, and making them believe that they actually can play great. Because, if all of a sudden you go, okay, Bernardo Silva may not be a great example when Pep put him at a left back in the Champions League game. But if he continued with that, I am sure Bernardo Silva would have played well, even though initially would say, come on, boss, that's not a place for me. De Zerbi is the same sort of a manager that would, I think, find different ways to have players as individuals and team to go to the next level. So that's why I think these two are being put together, because I can't think of anyone else right now that could come close to Pep Guardiola, because it's going to be a void. It's going to be a same void for Manchester City as Sir Alex Ferguson was for Manchester United, as Arsene Wenger was for Arsenal, and then we can probably think of a couple of different managers around Europe. So it absolutely makes sense, but the timing.
Yeah, obviously it is the time. Do you know what else you could add to that list that I feel De Zerbi definitely has? That intensity, and so demanding as well. He feels like that kind of football obsessive that Pep Guardiola is too. And I feel like they're going to need that, because otherwise it might be too much of a drop off, right? Okay, let's talk about the top two of the top two teams in the Premier League right now. They are the only two unbeaten teams in the Premier League right now, and they are both the North London teams as well, in Arsenal and Spurs. But who do you think has been the better of the two so far?
I mean, you have to say Spurs, because it was so unexpected when a new manager coming in like that. Look, I mean, I think Arsenal has done a tremendous job. Just getting over Manchester City was tremendous. By the way, that game against Chelsea, even though they were totally outplayed and actually outcoached, because I think Poch outcoached Mikel Arteta in this game. But there's a lot to be said about them coming back in a game like this, because, last season they've done that a little bit, but it wasn't so long ago where nobody would give Arteta or Arsenal in general a chance to play as bad as they did, lose as late as they were against Chelsea, who were, in my opinion, totally dominated. If it wasn't for a gift from Sanchez, Arsenal lose that game. So there's a lot to be said about Arsenal coming back in this game, but it's kind of hard to go against Ange Postecoglou and Spurs, because, they're top of the league. They've played some tough games and they've gotten the results. It kind of would be easy for me to say, well, look at James Maddison, which, by the way, has changed this team going forward. The idea of playing the way the fans want him to play, the way the players like Son want to play. And it's easy to go James Maddison and all the goals, and they're missing Harry Kane. And look, they're scoring in so many different ways. But I think it's defensively what he's done with this team that's even more impressive, because they are the second best defensive team. City 7, they have 8. I think there's another team that conceded 8. But look at Vicario. The Google probably went down the moment Vicario came to London, right? Because nobody really paid attention to where he was playing, what sort of a goalkeeper he was. And then today, when we're talking about Robert Sanchez being terrible, Raya at Arsenal, my goodness, was that a good idea? Onana at Manchester United, the ball-playing goalkeepers. Here you have Vicario, who's excellent. The back four, Mickey van de Ven. Show me a better center back right now. Top 3 in the Premier League easily, the way he's played so far. I look at Udogi. His upside and his ceiling, where is it right now? Another player that came from a modest side in Serie A that's just playing better and better every game. I think Romero, we don't have to talk much about him because he is world class. But even the young midfield, in Zard, the way he plays, and Bissouma, he was suspended, but obviously has found his feet after a year of being there. So it's hard not to say that it's Spurs at the moment. Now, the difference is going to be staying power.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think they can keep it up?
Well, that's just it. If you ask me that, then I think Arsenal obviously haven't gone through a season where they push Manchester City to a limit right now. What I just said, the way they've dealt with that Chelsea game, where it was maybe the worst Arsenal we've seen in I don't know how long, they found a way, which is very, very important. They're tested. They've gone through all the emotions with Mikel Arteta when he started, when they finished in 8th place 2 years in a row, when we almost fired Mikel Arteta with everybody else, to kind of finishing 5th, and now last season, and a great start to this season, it has to be said. Longer term, I go with Arsenal. But at the moment, I don't want to take it from... I could easily have made a case for Arsenal, even though Spurs are first. But I don't have the heart to take it away from Spurs. Why? They're top of the league for now a while.
Oh, well, we put out a poll actually on ESPN FC. Tens of thousands have voted already on this one to ask who you would rather play under. Would it be Ange Postecoglou or would it be Mikel Arteta? So here are the results so far. 55% of you would rather play under Big Ange, 45% under Arteta. What about you though, Janusz, and why?
I mean, look, Ange seems like a great guy, but I think, he doesn't suffer fools easily, right? But behind that smile, I mean, there's sternness. It's not easy. So is Mikel Arteta. I think the longevity of that process for Mikel Arteta, and again, I mean, soft spot for Ange for a long time, soft spot for Australians in general. So I think my first instinct was Ange, but I just have a feeling, just watching Mikel Arteta, seeing what he's taken on for Pep Guardiola, seeing how he's moving this team right now, seeing how he's built a very, very young team on the back of a legend that was Arsene Wenger. Just slightly, I have to agree with the poll, but just.
Okay. Maybe we'll revisit that one because we know that maybe you could change your mind as the season goes on. But I can see why you would pick Arteta here, especially with your admiration for Pep and obviously what he can emulate from that coach. Okay, this is never a nice one to do, but we have to do it. We'll start with the nice part of it. Biggest surprise of the season for you so far? You know what's coming after that as well, don't you?
Yes. Biggest surprise. I mean, that could be positive, right? I mean, I have to talk about James Maddison. I mean, I knew how good he was. Initially I was shocked where he ended up because I think there was a need for him, saying, Manchester United, even Liverpool. If you watch Liverpool against Everton, I mean, that lack of creativity still exists. I know that Jurgen Klopp loves the, great engine room, and, he's wanted without that type of player per se. But I think what James Maddison's doing immediately, he's one of the big, other than defense, he's the reason why we're not really thinking about Harry Kane, right? Not just the pure numbers, but that creativity that was missing while Conte was there and Mourinho. So even though I admire him as a player, I mean, from the off, he's turned around the team. I mean, he really, as much as you want to talk about Ange, I think you have to talk about James Maddison.